In the heart of a windswept valley, during the late 13th century, the village of Eldmere clung to life beneath the watchful eye of a distant lord. Its people rose with the sun and slept with the chickens, their days measured in bushels of grain and drops of sweat. Among them lived Ilara, the only daughter of Baldric, a stern but weary farmer, who had buried 2 sons to the winter fever and clung to his remaining child like a last sheaf of wheat. Ilara was 17, with hair the color of autumn fire, uncommon and often whispered about by superstitious neighbors. She wore a simple black knee-length tunic of coarse wool, dyed with iron-rich mud to save coin, and leather boots patched twice over. Her hands were rough from grinding grain, her cheeks wind-chapped, but her eyes held a quiet fire. Gareth, orphaned at 10 and landless by birth, worked the edges of the fields for scraps and shelter. He was lean, quiet, and honest, traits that mattered little in a world where bloodline dictated worth. Yet Ilara saw him, not as a beggar, but as a man with calloused hands that never stole, and eyes that held no envy, only hunger. That autumn, the harvest had been poor. The Lord's tithe took half, and rats ate more. Baldric rationed flour like gold, locking it in a chest beneath the hearthstone. But Ilara noticed Gareth growing weaker, his steps slower, his shoulders hunched. One moonless night, she pried open the chest, scooped a double handful of flour into a cloth sack, and slipped into the cold. She left it beneath the broken millstone, their secret place. Gareth found it at dawn. When their eyes met across the stubbled field, no words passed. Only the silent understanding that in a world built on obedience, kindness was rebellion. Baldric discovered the theft 3 days later. He counted the sacks twice, then thrice. The missing flour was no accident, it was betrayal. Suspicion turned to certainty when he saw Gareth eating a small loaf near the stream, crumbs on his lips like evidence. That evening, Baldric hid behind a hayrick. He watched Ilara press another loaf into Gareth's hands, their fingers lingering. His heart hardened like winter soil. To feed a landless man was not just waste, it was a crack in the fragile wall that kept his family alive. Worse, it defied the social order. Daughters obeyed, lovers married within station, and grain was never given, it was earned or withheld. "You've shamed this house," Baldric growled, stepping from the shadows. Ilara froze. Gareth stepped forward, but Baldric raised a hand. "You touch her again, and I'll have the bailiff chain you for theft." He dragged Ilara home by the wrist, her tunic tearing at the shoulder. That night, she slept on the dirt floor, bread withheld, her silence louder than any plea. At first light, Baldric led Ilara to the center of the fallow field. Word spread quickly. Villagers gathered, women with baskets, men with scythes, children wide-eyed. At the field's heart stood an old wooden post, once used to tether oxen during plowing. At its base lay a rusted iron collar, chained to a stake, left over from a debtor's punishment years past. "Kneel," Baldric ordered. Ilara sank to her knees on the hard earth, wheat stubble piercing her skin through thin wool. The collar, cold, heavy, and pitted with rust, was locked around her neck with a crude padlock. It wasn't a scold's bridle or shame mask, but in this isolated hamlet, justice was improvised. Public humiliation was a common medieval penalty, designed to inflict both emotional torment and social humiliation. Gareth pushed through the crowd, but the blacksmith held him back. "You've no standing," the man muttered. "She's her father's property." Ilara's red hair fell forward, hiding her face, but not her tears. The villagers stared. Some pitied her, others nodded in grim approval. A farmer's daughter, who gave away food risked the whole village's survival. Yet as the sun climbed, Gareth never looked away. Their eyes spoke what lips could not. I see you. I remember you. Hours passed. Flies buzzed. Her knees burned. The collar chafed her throat raw. Still, she did not slump. At dusk, Baldric returned with the key. You'll marry the miller's son come spring, he said, unlocking the iron. No more secrets. But as Alara rose, she let a hidden pinch of flour, saved in her sleeve, drift from her palm. It fell like ash onto the dark soil, vanishing into the earth where next year's wheat would grow. Gareth caught her eye one last time. In that glance lived a vow. I will find a way. The wind swept across the fields, carrying the scent of damp earth and distant rain. Somewhere beyond the manor's reach, freedom waited, not in castles or courts, but in the quiet courage of two hearts who dared to share bread in a world that hoarded it. And though shame had knelt her in the dirt, it could not break her spirit, only bury it, like seed, waiting for spring.